Okay, so let's start again. Welcome everyone to this inspiration webinar on public outreach. My name is Lovisa Bengtsson and I'm working at EVL, the Swedish Environmental Research Institute. I will not only speak as a civil engineer that I am today, but I will more talk to you from my 15 years of experience of public outreach from the NGO sector, where I've been working a lot with youth participation in democracy and a lot of public outreach through that. I will also go through the results that I've gotten from interviews with frontrunner cases in the NextGen project. I know we have a lot of guests today that are not part of the NextGen project. Warm welcome to you as well. As this was designed mainly for the people who are in the project, I still hope you will get things today that you can use in your project, but this will still be the main focus today, the project and our cases and demo sites. I just realized I stopped sharing my screen, so I will start with doing that so you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see my PowerPoint now? Good. Okay. We're heading into the agenda for the day. First, we will start with some welcome and introduction. Then I'll move on to purpose of public outreach, where you will get to talk a bit about your experience as well, or at least type them. Time is quite limited today, so ask questions if you want to. You can either write them in chat, or if you raise your hand, Eva will help you and give you the word when it's suitable. We will also go through methods and results from my work with public outreach in the task that I've been working in. Then we head into the case learnings and the public outreach guide that I've created. Next up is a group session where you will get to plan your activities. And if you're a frontrunner case and already are doing a lot of activities, you will get the chance to help another case or detail down your activities and make sure that you are aligned with the things I will be talking about today. Then we will have a reassembly and discussion about today's workshop, some questions, and then we're done for the day. Hopefully that is a couple of minutes before 12 o'clock. My goal of today is that you get a better understanding in what ways public outreach can help your project to be successful. I want to inspire you to do public outreach. I know it's hard to cram in all the things you need to do in a project, but I don't want you to overlook public outreach. I want to help you to plan or detail an activity and gain insights and tools from our fantastic frontrunner cases. And as I said before, stop me for questions when you want to. We will also have 2 question sessions during the day. So if you rather feel like that, you can write them down and do them in the question sections. Okay, but let's start with some introduction to the task and the work package. I've been working in task 3.2.1 that is called public engagement. Very suitable name for what I've been doing. The work package that it's part of is work package 3, which aims at actively involving and engaging stakeholders from the whole water value chain with emphasis on end users and the general public, and will offer an engagement environment around the innovations demonstrated. And my task is linked to this by trying to help out the demo cases with the work. Other things that's been done in the in the work package are augmented reality that we will briefly, as a bonus, touch upon today. We have serious games. The communities of practice has also been part of this. But my task is mainly on public engagement and interviewing these cases on how to do it and then spread the information. The work has been carried out by IVL, me and my colleagues, but we also had a lot of help from the European Science Communication Institute and Alec and his team. Very grateful for that help. So, why should you do public outreach and engagement activities? Why should you do things and activities with people and to people that are not part of the project? Do you have any thoughts on this yourself? Well, I hope you have. I will give you, I think, 5 minutes, and you can write your answers in the chat window. I, of course, have the correct answers on the next slide, but you will have to think for yourself a bit first. So please write your ideas on why you should do public outreach in the chat. We've got one answer from the one who's already in the work package. Mm-hmm. To build knowledge, do you mean inside the project or in the public?
It was me, and I think to the public.
Mm?
But of course, it's both ways. But yes.
We're getting lots of good answers here. Did you already see my next slide? I think we're getting really good answers. I will read some of them to you. No public support means no sustainable solutions adopted. I think that's very true. Consultation on the circular solutions with the public to increase its acceptance. Also very true. Build knowledge, celebrate innovation, incorporate local knowledge, get valuable inputs from the public. It's fun to do. Show the general public the great things you do. Get ideas. I think I will show you my slide now so you can see that you are thinking the same things as I'm doing. Share knowledge, create best practice, engaging stakeholders that are end users of the technologies. Yeah, I will let you read through these on your own, but I think they are very close to the things I wrote down when I was thinking on public outreach. One thing that could be used as a motivator is that we promise to do so in the application. I don't hope this is your main drive to do public outreach, but for some people it might be, and that is fine, as long as it's happening. We want to raise knowledge of circular economy approach to water, energy, and materials within the water cycle. And that is, I think it's best done when interesting things happen rather than just showing out of the blue. So I think we have a very good opportunity within our project. Increase involvement and satisfaction with water in circular economy by engaging citizens. This is very close to the last one. I also think from my perspective that you can create this public outreach and knowledge to create pressure on politics for sustainable change. It doesn't have to stop with the end users, but if we raise their awareness and maybe also their engagement in these matters, it can spread to the politics and create sustainable change in many levels in our society. You can also decide to co-create, explore, experiment, and evaluate your work with other minds that might have a completely different perspective than you have. And that can be both frustrating and very funny. So I challenge you to try it out. I also think this was also said in the comments, and I'm really happy about it because I think it's so important when you're in one of these big and long projects that you show your work and you show that you are proud of what's been done in the project. It's a really great motivator to keep everyone on track and to keep the energy throughout the project. Especially when it's very long, like EU projects usually are. So to sum it up, I think that when I'm doing public outreach and engagement, it's usually to create lasting change. If we keep everything that happens within the project, we won't have any results that we are less likely to have results that stays after the project is done. But if we spread the word, if we spread the knowledge, and if we share it, there's a greater chance of us creating something that will last in the community. And I also think it's really important to remember that this is a great way to maintain internal drive, pride, and motivation within your project team. Do you have any comments on this so far? I also think it's really good to see your comments because it shows that you are aware of what public outreach is and how to describe it. Yeah, I don't see any comments or raised hands, so I will move on. So if we head into my work for now, the things I've been doing, I started out maybe a year ago booking the meetings, or I think it was April and May that we did the interviews with frontrunner cases. And you will get to know them a bit better later on because we will go into a short version of the guide that I've created based on those interviews. I also incorporated the general knowledge on public outreach from my years of experience and created a written guide. You will all get this after the webinar today to help you in the continued planning of your work. I had a lot of great help from Alec and his team on interactivity and design, so I hope it will be a pleasure for you to scroll through it, or rather click through it, because it's not linear. You can jump back and forth as you want to. This then resulted in the inspiration webinar that we're having today, but we also have the possibility within our work package or the task to give you the demo cases some individual support if you need it. Hopefully you will have all the tools you need today, but if don't, please reach out to us. And I will talk a bit more about that in the end. So this is some of the pages in the outreach guide or the inspiration guide that I created for you. You will see a very condensed version today, but you get the full version after the seminar. So I will now change PowerPoint. 1 second. Now all my monitors are in the wrong place.
You see the presentation now. It says navigation. So
Good. It was the other two screens that weren't in the right place. It's very interesting to do this kind of thing from your home. Okay, so this is the navigation page in the public outreach guide. Just to show you what I meant about the interactivity, you can go to any place you want to in the guide by clicking on it. So if we want to go to Costa Brava, I can just point and click and I will go straight into the case. If I decide that I want to know some general information before that, I can just go back and move into those places. So I will do a linear version of for you that will give you some more information on the results that we found during the interviews last spring. The introduction is what you've already had today, so I won't go into that, but I will move on to general advice on outreach, and that's some of the advice that I found in all 3 cases that we interviewed. So let's see. First of all, I would like to say that since these interviews were done in April and May, the cases have probably moved on a bit from what I will describe. But I think that the planning and the start of the public outreach activities are the things that you are most general and that you will have the most use of in your own work. So I don't think that's a problem. But if you feel interested in any of the cases, I'm sure you can reach out to the case study leaders and ask them how they are doing now. We won't have time to go into that today, but all of them are very kind and happy to talk about their work, so I don't think it will be a problem if you're interested. Okay, so many things might differ between different demo sites. You can't take one of the cases and just move their way of doing it into your situation, because you might have different risk in your technical solutions. You might have a different acceptability in the community. The cultural context might differ. We've seen this to be a very heavy factor in how things are moving or not moving. You might also have different motivation and drivers in the stakeholders in your project. Either that you want different things out of the project, or there might be hidden agendas that you have to navigate. Some points did, though, repeat themselves in all of the interviews, and those are the three you can see on the right here. So the first advice is be transparent on decision space. You have to talk about the amount of influence that is expectable from the public participants, so that decision space matches their anticipated level. If not, you risk having people showing up and then leave your project, or be less engaged because they didn't get what they expected. It's also good to be transparent about those things, because the needs of the project and what you've stated in the application might be others than what's the fun way or the comfortable way for the public. And if you're transparent on this from the beginning, it will be a lot easier to try to navigate and find a way that is good for everyone. Yes. The next thing is to use your strength and relations. This is something that's been very successfully used in all three cases, and we will talk a bit more about it when we get into them. But we could see a very strategic use of relations and formality levels in all of the cases. Okay, have a good day, Nigel, and watch the recording afterwards if you want to. It might be strategically smart to let different parts of your project group reach out to different stakeholders. It can be because you have a relation beforehand with them, or it might be because you don't have a relationship to them in beforehand. There might be conflicts that can be avoided if a new person reaches out to them, or you can use a higher formality level to push through things that needs to be done. And because we are a project with different formality levels, this is something that we all can use in a smart way if we want to. The last thing is to be flexible. You can't predict a pandemic. Maybe you shouldn't predict a pandemic to happen. I don't think it's the standard case for a EU project. But if you keep a flexible mindset on how to perform your activities, it will leave both you and your project in a better place when the unpredictable happens. And it could be small things, it could be large things. But if you plan for something to happen, you will be in a better spot when it happens. So these were the general advice that we found in all three cases. So transparency, strategic use of strength and relations, and a flexible mindset. Now we will move on to the cases and talk a bit about their own learnings that they had, and some of their challenges and success stories. Good morning, Rupali. We will start with Costa Brava in Spain. The purpose is to use regenerated water for public and private gardens and other irrigation purposes. They will try to use their consensus method but it's been a challenge because of political change and a pandemic. And as I said, the main method of public outreach will be the consensus method. The method itself is a way to use the public or the local citizens and not just involve them in creating the vision of the future, but they are also given the political role of an overseer of the new policy and its implementations. So the consensus will be used to decide on public outreach activities to more passive citizens, as the group itself will be, it will be an open call to join. So probably active citizens that are engaged in their community, found in garden clubs and other organizations, will join. So they will decide on public outreach activities to reach the more passive citizens, and by this they will use the knowledge of the local community to reach or get a better reach than they maybe could do on their own. They want to do public outreach because this way they hope, as I said, that they will get a better plan on outreach activities and gain acceptance for the techniques used. They will have to get the acceptance because people will probably have to go and get water themselves for their gardens. So you need some you need to have people actively coming to the project. It will also be a grassroots movement. So people will be recruited from garden clubs and organizations and other stakeholders, but not from professionals in water. Maybe some people will be professionals in water, but they will be there as their private persons. So some of the challenges and successes. The consensus method needs to have the political power leave some of the power to the consensus group. And this turned out to be a bit sensitive when the municipality that they were working with faced some political change. The earlier mayor was keen on trying this out, but the new one did not want to. So that was a challenge for the project. They've also had some delays due to the pandemic because the method is developed for a face-to-face setting, and that was, of course, not very good this spring or summer. And it also left, I mean, I think all of you have noticed this, that many other pressing matters turned up that needs to be, that you need to compete against if you're talking to a municipality. Some of the successful things that's been done is that the project had good connections and the method had a very good standing. So other municipalities told the project that they are interested. I don't know how it turned out now, but they had at least some other connections that they were working with when we spoke to them last. The method in itself is also very flexible and adaptable. You need to do some adaptations to move it to another place, but it's only a matter of weeks, which in such a long project as this one isn't a big problem. The method will also be tested in a digital setting by the UN, and of course you could use this as marketing. You know, like the UN is using this method and trying it out, and I think that might be on the things we were talking about earlier about how to use your relations, this is a good example of that you could use this UN stamp on the method to sell it to other municipalities. It's also good to get alternatives if the pandemic is moving on, but I also think from my own perspective that you can reach different target groups and use this in different ways. An online meeting might get other people than a physical meeting to show up. So I think it's very good that you get the alternative to do it digital as well. Very interesting case. You can read more about it and in detail in the big guide that you will get later. Okay, we're moving on to La Trappe Brewery, where they are brewing beer in a monastery, and they want to implement. They want to clean. They want to treat two grey water streams for groundwater recharge and irrigation. And in the long run, the aim is for the water to return to the brewery as part of its production process. They have mainly used their already existing channels for outreach, but they've also done a very mindful work of fitting this new story into their already existing storytelling as well. There's, of course, a lot of challenges on the acceptance of the use of clean water in the brewery process, and they've also had a lot of bureaucracy that has need to be been handled about this, but that's not on the public outreach part. But of course, that could help and influence the politics. Yeah, it felt like I was missing something on that slide, but you can read more about it later in the big guide. They, as I said, they are working together with the monks in the monastery, and as Istvan is saying when we're talking to him, it sounds very good to talk about the monks praying a lot and trying to make the world a better place. It's not hard to understand that they also want to make their production better and more environmental friendly. And this is something that is used a lot in the communication. I think I will turn them around and talk about the successes before the challenges. They already had a visitors program in the monastery, and I think they had almost 200,000 visitors a year, if I remember correctly. And of course, it was very easy to build on that program and just add in the information on what's going on to the people who are visiting. As I said, they're using the storytelling in place to draw attention to why they are doing this, and probably giving the acceptance a great push, because who would like to be against something that is trying to be good in this way? They've also used an innovation board rather than a steering board, and this helps to bring innovative thoughts. There's almost a ban on being conservative, and I think this helps bring up new ideas and prioritizing new ideas in the work. They've also used a very smart way of contacts and relations when they had some land use problems with farmers living around the area, or when they were going to implement those systems, they sent the monks instead of the water board, that is a governance function, because it was much easier to talk on a person-to-person level with the monks and farmers than if you sent out the governance to talk. They are also creating good relations in the community by using the space for community gaining activities like environmental cafes and innovation hubs. And the innovation hubs, of course, also feed in innovation into the project, as well as creating a lot of goodwill when hosted there. They've also had a lot of press coming in from all over the world. I think they had it already, but maybe even more now. And they've also had like presidential meetings and stuff, because it's a very interesting place and they are not downplaying it. They are rather telling this story about how interesting it is. It's also good because people come to visit from all over the world, and they've also had a lot of other breweries coming and looking at the techniques. So the knowledge is shared and spread throughout the world. They've had a lot of challenges with slow bureaucracy, but we don't know, but it might be so that the popularity might have helped to get things done. It's harder to say no to things that are popular, and with all of this goodwill storytelling going on, I think it might have given the politics a well-needed push. And then, of course, COVID-19 is slowing down tourism. So I'm not really sure. I don't think they had a lot of problems when we talked to them in the spring, but I can imagine that this year's been quite slow for them. Okay, one last case, then you will have the chance to stretch your legs before we head into a little bit of a more interactive session. Last but not least, we have Storsudret on Gotland here in Sweden that I am. Yeah, we also got a video on the La Trappe brewery water technologies. It's really good. You can find it in the chat, and I will also link it after the meeting. It's really good. So we have Storsudret. The purpose is to provide drinking water for the region through the use of wastewater and other innovative solutions. The case have a challenge with many stakeholders with individual standpoints and conflicting interests. And this is something that needs to be navigated every day. The way to handle this is through the use of a local group and neutral partners, and a lot of relations again. So you can see that is a very important part in all of these cases. They use the local knowledge to anchor decisions and information, and also to build trust around the solutions needed or implemented. And the local group is also a great way to reach further into the general public and the local community. The project is, it was possible to do the project because IVL had been long-term networking with the local government, and this creates both a good base for the project, relation-wise and knowledge-wise, but it also creates lots of trust to begin with. There's a high interest in the public activities. That's you can't take that for granted, but it's been very helpful for the project. We also, or the case also had a beer made from recycled water that could be used in the storytelling and talking, and as a fun thing to talk about. And the focus on the local community has been very, very successful, or it's been needed, but it's also been successful. As I was saying before, it's a complex project and a lot of different minds and stakeholders. So one thing that's been very important to keep this is a project that is running in people's lives and in people's backyards, really. So you need to balance getting research results and the local impact and what you do for the people that are actually living in this place. There's been some delays and changes due to the pandemic, but Sweden's approach to lockdowns, or the inability to make lockdowns, made the project run pretty smooth, at least when we haven't had very large outbursts of the coronavirus. But of course, it's slowed things down, especially since this method also is very based on creating meetings and being in place and do things together and discuss things. It's a complex project where a lot of things have changed during the process, and this is, of course, something if you have to change a lot during the process and change many things, it's a really big job to keep everyone updated and keep everyone accepting the changes in the process. Luckily, this has worked pretty well, I think. But it's been something that the case have had to put a lot of time and energy into. Then we also have an interesting part because, as I said, we are working in people's backyard in this project. And even though public outreach might create pride and joy and engagement, it can also be a bit too much. If you get too much publicity, if you need to do too many interviews, if you get too many visitors, it might be too time consuming or energy consuming. So this is also something that's been done in the project, balancing talking about the project and showing it to the world and letting people live their own lives. And this is something you might have to be focused on if you're working very close to the community and the people in it, in your case. I also have a small bonus for you. On Gotland and other places, Athens, for example, we are working with an augmented reality app. If you've played Pokemon Go, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it's an app that creates a digital overlay on the real world. So if you go to, like in our case, Gotland and Storsjødret, you get some points of interest on your map. And if you go there, you can get additional information about the place. It could be a picture and some information on how to do a groundwater test. It could be a 3D model of a new cleaning treatment plant, and it could be quizzes. And I won't tell you very much more about this today, but this is also a way of doing public outreach. And I think we have people working with it today in our chat and in this meeting. Is that so? I can't see that.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's true.
good. And this is very interesting. I don't know if you haven't have the possibility to take in any more cases than you already have. But yeah, keep an eye on this, especially when we have bigger meetings, because this is really interesting in a fun way. Sorry?
That was a very valid point that you raised here, Lovisa, because we are always interested in picking up new cases.
Ah, good.
So just to make it clear, outside of Athens and Gotland, as you just mentioned, we always strive to finding some new demo cases. So if someone here is interested, or if someone would like to participate in our experiment and in our demonstration, then I would be all ears.
That's really good because I've been using this a lot, or a bit at least, and I think it's really fun and it's an easy way to work with public outreach. And you also get use of talking through the storytelling and what you want to share. So if you have any questions or interests about this, please contact Tina. I can also share your email with the meeting notes afterwards.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Lovisa, for bringing that up.
Thank you. It's really fun to work with. I think this is a good place to maybe give you a 10-minute stretch, because then we're going into the discussions and the workshop part. So I think we're taking a break here, and I'll meet you back in 8 minutes. And then we can talk a bit more about what's going to happen. But I think a break will be nice first for both you and me. Okay, see you. Okay, see you in 7 minutes. And if you have any questions that you want to ask me without the other ones, maybe hearing it, I'm here for the break. Okay, one more minute and then I hope to see you all back here. When you get back, you could turn on your cameras or show in any other way that you're still here. If you don't have a camera, you could also raise your hand so I see that you are here. I think that's half of you at least, so that's fine. You can remove your hands and we'll go into the workshop again. Okay. Another part of the guide is the tools of public outreach. We have the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. I love that. I think it's a super easy way to plan your activities, and you will actually use that one to plan your activities in the upcoming workshop. I've also gathered some method toolboxes that I've been using a lot in my other work, and it's a toolbox with different ways of running meetings and help people to get to know each other, but also many great methods and teamwork activities for your own teams. So I think they are really good to use in many situations. I've also added a link to the consensus method that you could use if you want to in your projects. I also think you could talk to Richard that wrote in the chat just now that he unfortunately is leaving, but he's one of the main persons behind this method. So lucky for us, he's in our project. So contact him if you want to know more or read the paper that I've attached. So if we talk about the spectrum of public participation, you will get the full PDF in the chat in a minute, but it's a model where you decide on your public participation goal if you want to inform, consult, involve, collaborate, or empower the public in your project. And then it gives you some help with what your promise should be to the public. As we talked earlier on transparency, this could also help you in how to talk about what they can expect. And last but not least, it shows you some example techniques on how to do corresponding activities to the amount of participation that you want. So this will be available to you in just a minute, but I will have to switch PowerPoint again. I hope you can see my screen again, because now I can see you. So we will do 2 workshop sessions. The first one is supposed to be 1 demo case per group. And if you're a frontrunner case, then maybe you could use this time to make sure that your planned activities or your done activities are aligning with the amount of influence you want to achieve. For the other ones, it's a chance to plan an activity according to this model, the IAP2 spectrum. And I want you to focus on what you want to achieve. Why are you doing the public outreach? What do you want to happen with it? So I will send you some discussion points to help you in this process. Then we gather here again, and we head out into the second step, where I will combine you into groups of 2 demo cases or demo sites per group, where you will describe your plan, support each other with feedback and reflection. And then we will come back here and share our thoughts on this process. But before we head out into the groups, I will try to divide you depending on what demo site you're on. Do you have any questions? Questions in general or questions about this workshop? It's okay to do it through microphone or writing. And if you're a guest, you can also meet in a group and talk a bit about what you're thinking or what you are thinking about public outreach and how you are working with it in your project. No, okay. A lot of people has left the meeting, so I will start to give you rooms. This might take a little while, so I will show you what I want you to do in this first step, and I will also share a link to the document so you can try to download them or look at them before or during me trying to sort the breakout rooms in Teams. You find a folder with all the information in it here. And if you don't have access to it, please tell me and I will give you access. I think I will call your name and then you can say what case you belong to, or if you're a guest, or if you're working in a general work package rather than a case. So Alfredo, are you in a case?
Hello, I'm trying to access the folder.
Yeah, but are you in any of the K sites?
Well, I'm close to Costa Brava. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know if this is one of the two sites.
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. Marine.
I am part of work package 4, and I'm working on Latrap and Gotland.
Okay, do you want to be in Latrap or Gotland or VP room?
Gotland, maybe? Might be interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Eva, you will go to Gotland as well. Otto, are you part of a case or do you want to go to guest or NextGen work package? Otto Chen, I can't hear you if you're talking. Hi, now I think I can hear you now. So where do you want to go to a case or do you want to go to NextGen work package discussion or guest discussion?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yeah.
To the case.
Yeah. Which case?
Costa Brava?
Yeah. I'll add you. Then we have a name with a lot of Greek letters that I can't say. Sorry. Do you want to go into Athens?
Yep.
Yeah. Good. I'm sorry for this pretty long process. It's just very hard now that so many people left. Jordi, where do you want to go? I cannot hear you, so if you don't have a microphone or if it's acting up, you can write in the chat as well. Okay, we'll take Joss. Where do you want to be? Work package or a case?
It's a bit up to you where you want us to be, to have, 2 or 3 groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Difficult to organize it like this, indeed.
Okay, I'll give you a room when we've gone through the list.
That's fine.
Kate, do you have a wish?
Hi. Yeah, no. The same as Jos. Put me where it's helpful to make sure the groups are even.
Okay, and Rupali, Staffan, Therese, and Shadi, do you want to go to Gotland?
Yes, for Staffan.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, Staffan?
It was yes from Stefan.
Yes, Stefan.
Yeah. Good. Okay, then we have mostly people in Gotland. Yep, okay. Jordi or Jordi? Do you know where you want to go? Or do anyone know?
Maybe just place him, Lovisa. So
yeah. Okay, now I tried to place you all in some of your rooms, and I am starting them now. So you have 15 minutes to decide or to talk through your cases. And just come back here if you have any questions. Okay, see you at 1:30. if any of you who are here in this room want to be added to another room, just tell me. Welcome back.
All the regenerated water. I don't know. Maybe we can do an extrapolation.
Okay. Did you get sent back to the meeting by the application? Good.
Yes.
It's the first time for me using this breakout room with this many people, so it's acting a bit differently than I'm used to. But it's good to see that it's helping out. Okay. I think I did a small checking in all of the rooms, and it seemed like you all had great discussions going on. I'm happy about that. Since we don't have that many groups as I was hoping, I'm thinking about doing this step 2 with a full group instead. Yeah, we can save the insights that I was planning to ask you about till later. But in the documents that you got from me, you also have step 2, which is a feedback session. And since we only have 3, I think we only have 3 case sites represented right now, we can go through them together instead. And then you who are not in the case can give some feedback afterwards. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have Athens, Gotland, and Costa Brava here. Do you have any other case sites? I don't think so. Okay. Then I will decide who gets to start. Athens, did you have a good discussion? What did you talk about? What do you plan on doing?
Okay. Yodis, okay, I'll give feedback. So we talked about Athens, but also Costa Brava.
Yeah.
And we looked at your 5 levels of public impact and involvement, Lovisa. And we said the first level, informing the general public with a good information campaign, is always good and important. But we also said it's important to follow that up with involvement actions. So that would be the 3rd level of impact, involvement. For example, if you have a demo case where you can ask people to help in cleaning the beach of removing plastic, that would be a good follow-up action to an information campaign. Now, for the Costa Brava demo case, such an action could be a tasting event of tomatoes grown by reclaimed water. Then we said, but the 2nd step, consulting, is also important. For example, for Athens, in Athens, we use treated sewage water for an urban tree nursery. And a way of consulting the general public is to build a narrative, to build a storyline around this, which goes far beyond the actual water technology we are doing. For example, the storyline could be, okay, guys, we have climate change. Athens is getting more and more hot. We have less and less water. We need more trees, and these trees will cool the city, and the trees will also filter the air and improve the air quality. So for that, we need water. Why not use sewage? Otherwise, the sewage would simply be discharged. So you could build a storyline around this to have people understanding and providing feedback and input on your demo case. Well, and then ideally, you could move to the steps 4 and 5, collaborating and empowering. So as you explained very well, the Costa Brava uses this co-consensus methodology, which could also be of interest for Athens to look into that. What we did not further discuss is how to do so.
Yes.
Jordi, is that okay? That's what we discussed?
Yes, this is what we discussed. The only thing I will add is one important explanation for the general public, I think, is the cost. In the case of Athens, we are saying that probably the irrigation of these trees will have no cost for users, because they are using a water that in other case will be thrown away. And they will not use drinking water for the irrigation. So really, they will get also an improvement of the users, of the citizens, more than the users. I think this is a very important part of the engagement of the people, because at the end, as they have to select one option, if the option gets an improvement for environment and also has no cost, it's a very well way to engage the people.
Yeah, good. I will leave the floor open for comments and feedback from all of the cases now. So if you have any feedback or thoughts or questions, please raise your hand and I will share the word to you. I have a question then until someone finds something to say. Do you feel like the public outreach is an opportunity or a challenge in your cases?
I will say public outreach is a necessity. The challenge is how to make it, because the problem many times, and I was discussing, one of the problems of the technicians is that we are far away from politicians and citizens. So we need the public outreach to make the citizens convince the politicians that what we are doing is interesting, but we don't know the way of doing it.
Do you have other parts or partners in your project that are closer to the citizens that you could cooperate with to reach them?
In our, for example, in Costa Brava, yes, we have the control. The problem is that he's not the partner. Consortium Costa Brava, that is the user of the technologies, he is just in touch with the citizen. The Catalan Water Agency, perhaps they are not so in touch with the citizens, but at the end, in the case of water, the final user of the water is the one who is more near the citizens. The problem many times is that even the case of water, the water agencies or the water operators, even they are the final step to the citizens, the relation with citizens is not, I would say, the best one who make this collaboration. And many times citizens doesn't feel the water operators as, I would say, at least in Spain or many parts of Spain, organization that is much near them. So this is the challenge, how we can make these water operators or water agencies to make them be more near the real needs of the citizens.
Okay.
So Lovisa, for Athens, this demo case is very much linked also to the policymakers of the municipality, which I think is also important, that we need to do both. And I'm happy to see that in Athens and also in Costa Brava, and in Gotland, we work with serious games and augmented reality as a way to also reach out to the general public, including, or maybe specifically, the youth, the young people.
Yeah.
That could be a good way to reach also the general public, not so much interested in water or circular economy or whatever.
Yeah, I'm especially happy about that, of course, the inclusion of youths in your work. Okay, thank you for this. Anyone else have any more feedback? Otherwise, we will move on. No, it doesn't seem like that. Okay, we'll head to the other Costa Brava group then. Do you have anything to tell about your activity?
Well, hello. We were a very small group, just 3 people. And sorry, because maybe I should have had more information about the state of the art of this topic in our area, but I'm not really up to date because well, I'm not doing this research or this work directly. So we were discussing in the end about the implications of public awareness on reclaimed water uses, and I also explained that from my point of view, maybe here in these Mediterranean regions where we are used to droughts and to these dry periods, is not that important, which is the view of the common people, but how the leaders, I mean the health authorities, and also we from the public companies, how we are dealing with this kind of problems. If we are able to facilitate the implementation of these schemes, or maybe we are making an interpretation of the law which is highly strict, much that it should be maybe. So in my opinion, the problem is not to reach people, but to be able to convince those that have to adopt decisions, to make decisions. It was a little bit the summary, because we don't believe that the technical issues are really a problem here, because there's been many years of reclaimed water uses here, and I think there's a very general acceptance of this kind of technology. Maybe a point that I have written in the chat. Maybe now with the presence of COVID in sewage water, maybe some people could be a little bit concerned about reclaimed water, but up to now, this is not a real problem here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you might need to keep in mind, that it might need, if the question comes up, you might need to be prepared for it. I leave the floor open for any questions or feedback or thoughts. Okay, I don't think we really have any, but we were discussing this case earlier as well, so that's okay. We will move on to Gotland. Anyone there who wants to talk about planned activities?
I suggest you, Therese, to say some words if you want.
I think she left.
Okay. Well, if don't Eva wants to say something, or Shadi, I could just shortly tell you about what we discussed. It was the situation we have right now with the COVID. It's has been a little bit hard to make the outreach activities the last half year or so, and but we discussed the possibility to use the R application for starting up again before we could go out and have the outreach activities again physically. And I could also tell you that they had a music evening at Storsudret just before Christmas. It was 32 people attending this meeting or this event, and all of them got sick, and most people was quite old. So one of them that arranged the meeting actually died also. So from that, since then they are a little bit extra careful. So it will also makes it. We don't see the possibility to go down and have the big outreach activities. So the R application, we think could be a way in to use it and to engage people and communicate that we have this R application and that we are still running the project, of course. And then we had a discussion on which the target group should be for those activities. And we have some interested cafe owners that were very interested from the beginning, but they have no business right now. So that we will contact them again. And then we discussed the possibility to use Campus Scotland's students, but we don't think we should take a bus and go with them to Storsudret right now. So then the idea, as Jos also mentioned, we strongly believe in engaging the public through the young people. If you could use the school and actually quite young people, they will certainly discuss this during the evening if it's interesting enough. And the application could also be a way to get families outdoors together with the grandparents or whatever, and like Pokemon Go, and then we could start up the engagement again through not just the young people, but through the school and engaged the other parts of the public at Storsudret. That was shortly what we had time to discuss. Shadi and Eva, you please fill in if you have.
They seem happy.
Yeah, very. That was crystal clear and covered everything we discussed, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, but I really agree with Jos about that has been very successful in many other cases where you engage the young people and they are the future, but more than that, they are also a very good way into the society. And you could also use school lessons for this for some kind of projects around the R application, for example.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, there was a TV show for kids about two people working with waste management, and the parents had to go out by night to throw the trash away, because the kids would go through the trash and make sure it's sorted properly. So they had to sneak out with the trash in the night when the kids were asleep. So I think that's a really good way to reach a lot of people. Anyone else that want to give any feedback or thoughts to Gotland?
I could add that we also had a discussion that if we should start up the use of the AR, it should be good, that good. So it's a good start for the application. So, and then we found out that the visual effects are quite good, but still there are lacking of content into it. So maybe we have to improve that first and focus on Storstudet and the activities there.
Yeah.
That was also a discussion we had.
I think that's good. Any other comments?
No, I seems to be very crystal clear in my summarization.
Yes. Okay. Then I think this part is quite good. I would like to ask you if you got any new ideas on outreach or purpose or planning through this workshop or through this day. Please either write down your answers or talk directly to the group.
I could also add that I think it's very clear that the water issue is a moving, what should I say? It's a moving target. And now we have the situation with the COVID-19, and suddenly we have other discussions about reuse of water, for example. But also it could turn the other way, that it could also start up a discussion on improvements in water treatment and better control of the water balance in systems, etc., etc. So it can turn many different ways in quite a short time. So it's also a reason to be quite up to date what happens in the water area the whole time.
Yeah. I saw Joss write something. I don't completely understand. Could you please elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, that was the point raised by Jordi for the example in Athens, where there are actually no general costs for the general public on the urban tree nursery demo case. Simply using the sewage, and it will be incorporated in growing trees in a kind of cost-effective way. And this can help to show the people what you're doing. That also from a financial point of view, it makes sense. Obviously, you have to very well explain this, because a lot of initiatives on itself require investments and costs. But for, let's say, the societal benefits, where the general public also has benefits from, it is good to take this along in the storyline, explaining, yes, we are doing these circular initiatives. Yes, this requires some investments, but on the, let's say, long run or on a societal general level, it also has economic benefits. And this might help in, getting people along in your initiatives.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Did you feel like this spectrum of public engagement helped you give some direction on how to plan your activities? Or are all of you front-runner cases that are already very good at those things?
No, I think it gives ideas to have those discussions, absolutely. it feeds in new thoughts. So it was good to me to hear all the thoughts. And as Jos, for example, Jos mentioned that, and Jordi, that as usual, money is very, the economy is very important.
Yeah.
You should always have that in mind.
We also had a nice comment from Alec. I think the broader context and concerns about sustainability among the public are finally beginning to reach a tipping point. They are looking for low threshold and practical ways to be useful and engage. Make it bite-sized, informative, and entertaining. Was useful to have these exchanges. Happy to hear that. Any last thoughts before we round up today? Another good comment from Alfredo. Sometimes law or lack of regulation is not the key, but how this is interpreted by those that must apply it. And I think that's very true. And I've seen the power of the public outreach being used to help push those decisions to be made. So I think that is very true. Okay. If you have any more questions or if you need any help, please contact us. You have my email address and you have my phone number as well. And if you want to have a longer discussion, we can book a meeting to go through it. We also have a part in this work package where we need to collect your learnings in a similar way that I was doing with the interviews. So Kate have made a nice little form for us to fill in. So if you have any learnings from today, you can already fill them in. But this is mostly for if you have any learnings from your whole work within the work package on public outreach. I'll give you the link here in the chat window so you can have a look at it. And I'm sure Jos will send this out to you when the project is nearing its end. I'm very thankful that so many of you showed up today. It was fun to hear your thoughts and inputs in this area. And I hope you had got some new ideas and saw some new faces today. So with that, 1 minute to spare. Have a nice day. Have a nice lunch if you're at the same time zone as me. And I hope to see you soon again. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you, Lovisa.
Right, thank
Thanks.
you. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, Luisa. Bye.